Stray from our usual routine a little bit today and start with an interview from KMAS. I guess we're calling it a roundtable discussion about the 2013 budget. Good opportunity, since we're launching into that process, to discuss what the issues are. So go ahead, Dan.
All right, well, thank you all, and good morning, Commissioners. The budget process, as you said, is just about to begin, and KMAS News Radio would like to share with our public and our listeners the guidance that you as a commission will give the department heads and the elected officials to consider when they are setting their individual budgets moving forward. So we've got a few questions. First one is the 2012 budget was a difficult one, did require some changes due to some challenges, and trying to pin down the unknown. All those ingredients were what was happening during 2012. And I just wanted you to maybe touch on some of those challenges from last year, or this year's budget actually, and what challenges you see going into the 2013 budget. And what would be similar and what would be maybe different from the way that you handled this year's budget moving into next year's budget.
It'd probably be well to start with Commissioner Sheldon, because Commissioner Bloomfield hasn't had quite as many budget rounds as the other two of us.
I'm a rookie.
Yeah, after 7 tries at the budget here, we're getting to, you get a little better at it, I think, as you go along. And I think also the important thing to realize in the budget, it's a point in time. We have to look at the budgets that have happened before, how we built up our ending fund balance, for example, over the last few years, especially since 2007, which really was a high point for us. We have cut our expenses considerably. We're down about $4.3 million in expenses since 2007. And our revenue has been down about $2.3 million in that same period. So we've been able to build our cash reserves substantially, and that, I think, will serve us well going into 2013, because we have quite a few unknowns. We have wage and salary issues with our unions. We have, as you know, several individuals who are in the Mason County Jail charged with murder. That's very unusual for the county, and that could be expensive. We don't know how people will plead or those type of issues, so we have to be prepared for contingencies.
And I guess I would like to add a couple things to that. Generally speaking, for 2012, you get at the end of the year, there's some authorized money that wasn't spent. You know, you've approved a 2011 budget. You're going to anticipate somewhere around $900,000 to maybe $1.2 million being returned by the departments, because maybe there weren't as many trials, or maybe there, weren't as many elections or something. I mean, it's all possible, or something got offset in the health department by a big grant. Would be another possibility, but there are all these intricacies that allow us to anticipate, given past experience, that we'll get some money back. We did approve a budget last year that looked to be about $1 million over what the anticipated revenue was, but recognizing that history of getting that money back at the end of the cycle, that seemed to be a reasonable anticipation. This year, however, our revenues really are not going up. Our revenues, in fact, may be somewhat less than we anticipated coming in for 2012. And so we'll be looking at how we're going to manage to go through and keep a balance between the service package that we offer now and the realistic expectation of our employees that we're going to get some, if not all, hopefully all of these union issues settled, and a reasonable expectation of what the benefit package will be, looking at all the other unknowns of labor and industry and unemployment. So those are all issues for us coming this coming year.
And we've got indication that the revenues coming in, real estate excise tax, permitting, the sales taxes are very flat, or even decreased in some areas. And it's not a real healthy indicator. And so to go out on a limb and say we're going to increase something, along with these other as Tim said, the expenses, possible expenses for the murder cases. There's a lot of variables there that just don't point to an excess of money or good times ahead.
Right,
So,
let's expand a little bit on your revenue sources, right? Because they're pretty limited, really, when you think about it.
yes.
Will you tell us all the different revenue sources that the county uses to operate for the departments? There's not very many, really, is there?
Our primary sources are property taxes and sales taxes. There are some siloed monies that, like the real estate excise tax, that can only be used for certain things. We have two forms of that. There's the lodging tax, which again has a very limited and restricted area. We do get some timber excise tax. That is always an unknown. Some years you don't expect much and you get a lot, and other years you think you're going to have some revenue and the amount is close to zero. I mean, that's a real unknown. It's a small portion of the budget, but it still requires that we be flexible in terms of really looking at how we're going to use that money. We have some other revenues that come from services the county offers, but that again, since we're a government, we pretty much do the things that are kind of civic decisions and that are not done for a profit. We don't have a lot of anticipated revenues. Cities are a little different. They have a little bit different taxing capacity, so they have a little bit better balance and have come through these last few years a little bit better than we have. But it's pretty limited, Steve.
It's important to remember that all the taxes, whether it's real estate or whatever, it doesn't necessarily all come to the county. We have other percentages that go to the state, schools, fire districts and whatnot. They're dedicated, and we need that. What comes to the county is actually a very small percentage of that total tax.
That's a good point.
And construction is a big part of our potential revenue. So if you take 2007, we had 2,200 residential building permits. Now that's not 2,200 houses, but it is excavation permit, plumbing permit, septic permits, all those things. 2,200 in a year. Last year we had 400. That's a huge drop. And the construction sector of Mason County, especially the residential sector, has taken a dramatic hit. Now, those permit fees fund our Department of Community Development, our building inspectors and those people. So you've seen a dramatic drop in our personnel. We've consolidated several departments. We look at Public Works is now has utilities and wastewater contained in Public Works. We've combined community development and community development planning and permitting as well. And a third consolidation is facilities, parks, and maintenance is now under one individual as well. So we've had to do those consolidations because it's just, and we're looking for more if we can.
More consolidation.
More efficiencies if we could.
More efficiencies if we can. But I'll just close with this. One large construction project can mean a lot to us. So for example, the Belfair sewer system, we collect a local share of sales taxes. That's considerable. Now that the work has slowed down, that project is basically completed, except for some hookups. The sales tax collected from that construction project is not there. We have a large project. The city of Tacoma is building a small power plant at Lake Kokanee. That's a $25 million project over 2 years, so that's some construction revenue. But another big project could mean a lot to us, but when you don't have a project, it is very impactful for a small county.
Can I ask if there's any projects on the horizon that we're talking to anybody about or looking forward to?
Not that I'm aware of.
I'm not aware of anything major.
Next year we'll get into the Belfair, the widening of the Belfair, of Highway 3. We'll start that, but we won't be in full construction, which does generate the revenue for the county.
Yeah, I'm not aware of anything coming in right now. It would be if for some reason the state were to approve the site and decide to build the new prison, the diagnostic center, that would be a huge economic benefit. And that would be the only one that I know of that's even kind of, it's probably not going to mature this next year, but it would be a discussion point that may come up. The other thing I was going to say is, and it crossed my mind, that the public sees a difference in our service package because of the loss of flow-through money from the state. That there were a lot of public health grants, that there were a lot of grants for planning and other kinds of services. I believe that we've also seen some cutbacks in the law enforcement grants. And so sometimes we were approving, people say, oh, well, look at the budget went up. Well, that really wasn't, that we were deciding to spend more money. It was that our departments were working hard. I think our auditors joined us, Karen Hearn. I think there have been several years that she's had fairly significant amounts of money come in as a result of grants coming through from the state. We're not seeing as much of that. Our planning and development department has had a number of grants over the last 6 years that are really significant amounts of money coming in, and we're not seeing that kind of money come to us anymore.
From the state.
From the state, juvenile justice grants.